Hello, Charlie TCG here, and welcome back to Looking Ahead, the series where I break down and analyse the meta, what's happening over Japan, and how it'll impact our one. Today on episode 50, we're talking about Charizard, how it quite possibly could be the BDIF of post-rotation in Japan. From the City League results, we've seen Charizard absolutely dominating by being up there in the top tables, whether it be the finals or winning lists. But which is the best way to play it? BDIF, the Bibarel version, or the Pidgeot version? So we're going to discuss exactly that reasoning in this video. We're also going to break down the rest of the top 16 results. Like the decks likes of Xianpao and Goldingo have risen up the ranks to be one of the strongest contenders of the post-rotation metagame, as well as also some lists and the future of the metagame. So if we look at the top 16 breakdown, we can see Charizard is 25% of the top 16 results. We haven't seen this number in such a long time. The highest, I believe, whilst being covering for such a long time, have been like 18%, maybe 20 at a push. But 25% is incredibly high. Now, we don't know the exact split about which is the Bibarel version, which is the Pidgeot version, but we can kind of assume that it's nearly about 50-50 each. Charizard is doing an absolutely dominating amount. It didn't lose much going to post-rotation. It gained a much stronger card, saying goodbye to Battlefield P-Pass, but gaining the likes of Buddy Poffin. Make sure you can get your Charmanders and the rest of your support Pokemon very, very early and even in the mid to late game. Another deck which could have thrived in this metagame right now is the likes of Xianpao and Arctina. Xianpao doesn't really have the threat of the Path to the Peak and any big heavy disruption at capability. So Xianpao is a really good beat stick archetype. Working likes of Iron Hand is really strong. If Charizard is doing incredibly well, Xianpao has a really good Charizard matchup. So obviously it's going to rise up the ranks to be a lot more popular. Another deck which is doing very, very well is Arctina. It gained quite a few good new toys to go with it. Yes, I know you did lose Path to the Peak, which is kind of the big selling point of Arctina, but it gains that really good ace spec, which is that the tool cost does 50 more damage from EX. That pretty much means that your Giratinas can hit for that big 330, getting that big one-hit KO on a Charizard EX. So as also having the likes of that Virizion as well. So the Iron Leaves, which when you pop it into the active spot, move all the energies as much as you want from your Pokemon to this one, and it can easily get a big one-hit KO on Charizard. So that's two ways to KO these big Charizard EXs, which is kind of the big selling point about why Arctina is doing really well. Quite a few of these new Paradox decks have kind of gone around. There's the Ancient Box with the likes of Koraidon, Roaring Moon, and the likes of Fluttermane have kind of been doing pretty alright. By being about 6.8%. Granted, none of them have actually risen the ranks to do really, really well. I think it's won like one or two city leagues, but still definitely a good like single prize archetype to go around. Roaring Moon and Golding are also doing incredibly well, but both being 6%. Roaring Moon is definitely leaning itself towards playing a little bit of a single prize one, the one that does 70 plus 10 for each ancient card in your discard pile. You don't really want to sacrifice too much of your consistency to kind of build around this engine. So some Roaring Moons are opting either play one or two, or just going back to the more Pekko line and playing either the good or ace specs. Golden Game, however, a similar thing with Lugia, kind of risen up the ranks, be actually very, very powerful. We saw at the end of our current metagame right now, Golden Go is doing incredibly well. But right now, Golden Go kind of got a lot better. There's no path to the peak. We're seeing the likes of Xianpao kind of do a lot more better recently. We've also seen the likes of Charizard. There's a lot of weight good draw factor with Goldingo. We have also some really good other secondary attackers, like you've got the Sizzle. Even the Sizzle EX can really help in the late games of option. Whereas the likes of Lugia is doing really well by having these big single price attackers. The likes of that Cinccino, Cinccino, that does 70 times out of special energy attached to it. You have 4 special energy attached to it, which can easily be attached with the likes of Archeops. You're hitting for 280 damage, additional attachment. That's a KO on Charizard. So it's already in a very, very well position. Then we have like a Great Tusk Mill, which I think could be the best way to play control right now. It's very fast, very aggressive, very much a good way to mill out your opponent's resources by trying not to mill yourself out. And Lost Box as well is also doing very well. What I love about this metagame, you can see it's definitely defined by what is the BDIF by Charizard being so 25%. But the other sort of is like contending options, the one that have really good matchups into it, don't even add up to how much powerful Charizard is. I think this is a really healthy looking metagame right now. It's definitely still very early to tell, especially once we get to Champions League in a couple of weeks' time. That will really solidify if Charizard is the BDIF. But if we just look at the results right here, we can see Charizard's back up there at the #1 spot. 14 wins, 17 second places, 30 top 4s, and 44 top 8s. That's an incredibly high number, especially for one of the strongest decks right now. We can see the likes of Xianpao and Arctina definitely swap places, but we can see the results are very, very heavy, but very much favored to be that actually have been played a lot of work into it. People are picking up Xianpao and Arctina. These are archetypes which didn't really gain that many new cards as well. It kind of gained a few things, but it wasn't like a huge change sort of the way how a deck works. And we've seen it at the bottom, Golden Go, Lost Zone, sort of decks, and as well as Lugia, also brand new into this sort of a best top 6 archetype. Golden Go, I really like this one. There are so many different ways to play this one. You can play the Palkia version, you can play Scizor, you can play Basket Legion. So it's still definitely finding out which is the best way to play this archetype. We've also seen the likes of Lost Box. Definitely the Paradox version is the most popular one, having likes of Roaring Moon, but I've seen the likes of Single Price Sablezard. I've seen the likes of playing some of the Fluttermane. I've seen the likes of Sliverwing. There are so many ways to play Lost Zone. They're kind of a little bit lost right now. They have lost the likes of more switching options by saying goodbye to Escape Rope, as well as also likes of Batavia P-Pass. So it's very much more difficult to get these big basic EX or V Pokemon out and play unless you play likes of Ditto. So definitely Lost Zone is kind of a little bit changing right now. So that's also Lugia is doing really well. A lot of people are kind of a bit worried about how we're going to get the Archeops in discard pile. I've seen a wonderful thing of like the Cryptic Psychic, the Cypher one, which you kind of like put it to the top of your deck, use Pokestop, mill them, and then you can get your Archeopses out. Or you can even play like likes of Jax with the likes of Ultra Ball. So there are ways around it. One of the biggest changes I've seen, especially if you see here and last one, we've seen no Lostina. Lostina's definitely fallen from its wayside, definitely giving birth to likes of Arctina being the strongest way to play Giratina right now. By having no path to peak and no real way to get your Giratinas out very efficiently, it kind of like fall by the wayside. They're not as strong as it once was. So right now, let's break down some of these lists, kind of talk about thoughts and feelings about where these could really be going into the new metagame. So this is a Charizard list here, which is the Evo version. Definitely a little bit slower by not playing the TM version, but it still plays the Bibarel and having likes of Entei as another good secondary attacking option. Charizard is very, very strong, especially with its Infernal Rain ability and Burning Darkness attack. It's absolutely incredibly powerful, especially going into the likes of any Dark Weak Pokemon. But you can see this list here is a little bit more different and unique, and exactly why I want to talk about it. It plays Hisuian Basculin. Why is this good? Well, it basically has call for family. Search your deck for some basic Pokemon, put them onto your bench. This is also very powerful because they can get the likes of your Enteis and Radiant Charizard. Definitely think Radiant Charizard is a must in most Charizard lists. Forcing a single prize Pokemon to kind of like get a knockout of that while also potentially getting a knockout on your opponent, it's very, very powerful. The rest of it still goes to the likes of the Heavy Iono and Arvin build, so it also plays that does play the Cryptic Psychic. I kind of think that's what it's called. I always forget its pronunciation, but to kind of bring out searching your deck for any 2 cards, put it at the top of them, and you can use the likes of either Squovet or even having a Bibarel to draw into them. This is a very, very powerful Charizard list. Doesn't play the TM Divo, which is kind of seen what we're used to, or even the TM Evo, which we've seen in the likes of Bibarel, but we can see that very much is a different case for this Pidgeot build. This is a very much more aggressive sort of effect of Charizard. Why do I think this could not be as strong? Well, it's also very, very powerful. Having likes of that Toe Scroll. The Toe Scroll is a really good inclusion. It stops the likes of anything going with Pokestops or even the Superior Energy Retrieval. As we've seen, Roy Moon is doing incredibly well. Is even Xian Pao is the second most popular deck. Having an instant out to Xian Pao is very, very powerful. It does play the likes of TM Devo, I'm blanking on that one, but Reversal Band, a Vitality Band, that's the one. It's just 10 more damage, which is really good, especially in Charizard, but it does play the Maximum Belt. The Maximum Belt is very powerful. It means that your first attack can do pretty much 210 damage, 230, getting the KO on nearly every single stage basic EX or V is really, really powerful, especially if we're seeing the high counts of Xian Pao and Roy Moon. You can threaten the pressure really much early on in the game, and that's why I really, really like this deck. I think definitely the inclusion of stadiums, so a lot of people are leaning towards, is definitely in the team, the Pokemon League headquarters. Pokemon League headquarters is a very, very nice touch, making sure basic Pokemon take additional more energy attachment. If we're seeing the likes of Roy Moon do really, really well, forcing them to have 4 energies could actually be pretty detrimental. They're not going to be getting a big turn 1 attack if they have to sacrifice so many resources just to go through that one stadium card. And they're still respecting Giratina, they're still respecting Roy Moon, they're playing that mist energy to make sure that their Charizard don't easily get KO'd. So these are 2 different versions of Charizard. They're both very, very different. Personally, I do think I would go the aggressive route by playing likes of Pidgeot build. I think that's the more strongest one. But if Charizard's going to be more popular, we're going to see more TM Devos. Could this build be a little bit too aggressive for this new format we're going to go into? Next one I'll look at is Xian Pao. We've definitely seen a little bit of resurgence of Xian Pao in this love. There are two different versions of this one to play. This one here is the like of that Bibarel with having the likes of that Kyogre from Crown Zenith. This is really powerful. For 4 energies, 180 damage to anywhere on the opponent's Pokemon, on the bench or active. A lot of decks are opting to play likes of Mew EX and Squawkabilly EX for their setup and draw factor, by having an instance of sniping effect is really, really strong. Yes, we have the likes of Greninja, which works incredibly well by having the likes of easily searching the likes of the canceling clone and the prime catcher, by having the outs to searching them out from the Pokestop and the Cypher's defense, as well as also having the Bibarel to draw into them, as well as Irida. This is the very fun version of Xian Pao. I think this is the build which I'm leaning towards. As well, they are playing around, so instead of playing Battle VIP pass, they do play the Ditto plus the Buddy Poffin, which is a really good inclusion to kind of like speed out to try and get out your Xian Paos and not rely on the likes of Ultra Ball and Nest Ball. Another version you could play is having the likes of Palkia. The Palkia version definitely does open up the Xian Pao. It's a really good secondary attacker. It's a way to get more energies out of the board if you are scared of Toe Scroll. So it's also having the Flutter Mane as well. Flushing out any basic Pokemon in play is very, very powerful. Stopping likes of your Comfy, stopping likes of some Squawkabillies is really good on the opponent's side. We've also noticed that Kyogre is also in this version. Is this the best sort of a secondary attacker for Xian Pao? 180 Snipe is very, very strong. We know it's doing pretty well. We haven't seen it have any success in our metagame, but maybe in a little bit of a slower format, which it looks a little bit where this new format is kind of leaning towards, and a lot of people are relying on setup by having Mew EX and Lumineon or even Squawkabilly, having that extra sniping effect. So it's a little bit stronger than having some maybe Greninja plays with the likes of your Iron Hands. The rest of it, I want to look at is Arctina. This is a very much a simple version of where we're kind of seeing the Arctina kind of go towards. We're seeing that they're not really reliant on any disruptive stadium cards. You could think about, oh, maybe they are playing the team league headquarters, but that would even affect your own strategy. You might not be able to get set up with just an Arceus V or even the Iron Leads to get that big KO near the end of the game against a Charizard. But we're seeing the maximum belt. We are seeing the Iron Leads. We're seeing the Super Rod. So you, in theory, can get Iron Leads out twice and even get this big one-hit KO with Giratina. This really pushes very much an anti-Charizard sort of metagame. You even play Gardevoir, so Giratinas don't actually one-hit KO Giratina back. So I think that's a very, very powerful strategy. I do think Arctina is definitely something to be testing for, especially if you are a huge Charizard fan or just want to get used to on post-rotation. I know it's already a deck which is well established. A lot of people love to play the new ones, but definitely keep Arctina on your radar. It's already been established right now of being a very, very powerful archetype in post-rotation, so definitely keep that in the back of your mind. Another one is Goldingo. I really like Goldingo. I think it's very, very fun. A lot of people really, really liked it, but it fell short a little bit, especially against the likes of Xian Pao. We did see it just get top 32, I believe, at Knoxville. So it's already kind of finally got its big name for itself. Obviously, top 4 in Kyoto in the Champions League. So Japan already loves Goldingo. It's already doing pretty well. It's been on the graphic a few times as well, especially for in the City League results. But this version of Goldingo is a little bit different, focusing a lot on energies, which is kind of what you need. Does play the Basculean version, the Hisuian Bascular Legion, and the Basculean as well, trying to get your Pokemon out, flood your board, as well as also flood the board with energy back into your deck. I think it's a very different way to approach it. This is a build as well, which we're much more commonly known around it by playing the likes of the Palkia. I love the Palkia, especially in Goldingo, because it offers a secondary attack. It also offers a secondary way to get energy on the field by forcing the kind of like use your Greninja. One thing that Goldingo does struggle is especially its HP and its attack. You might be sacrificing 3 energies to even KO a very, very simple Pokemon. Even the likes of a Radiant Greninja requires 3 energies for you to discard. But if you play a Radiant Greninja, you can get the Canceling Clone play with the back on against a bench Manaphy, kind of getting rid of some Comfies, some Charmanders, which is definitely where it's kind of focusing towards, even some Frigibacks as well, or even Manaphy, forcing to a single prize to take 2 prizes, and then you have a really good draw in the background. It's very, very powerful. I really, really like this version of it. I also think the new the ciphers they will affect basically the new Mallow. I think is really good, especially with the Pokestops, especially with Greninja plays. So you can easily draw into these 2 new cards you might actually need to play the game. So I think it's a really good way to play Goldingo. If I was personally playing it, this is the version I would play. I really like it with Palkia as a secondary option. And the rest of his list is very, very clean and very straightforward for Goldingo. This is a different Lost Box deck, and it's kind of where we're seeing some of people kind of focus on. We're already seeing Sablezard do very, very well in the metagame, especially with Roaring Moon. Roaring Moon really does open up Sablezard by having a way for you to do 220 damage very, very easily, while also having Frenzy Gouting to get instant KO on anything on the opponent's side. These people definitely respect Greninja by playing 2 copies of Manaphy. I think this potentially could be the new strategy. People aren't really going to be scared about any Sableyes anymore. We said goodbye to Yoga Loop. We said goodbye. I believe that Cresselia, I think Cresselia rotates or doesn't rotate. Can't remember, but Gardevoir isn't as strong right now. So we don't need to rely too much on Jirachi to really help you from your Sableyes. We could definitely rely more on Manaphys because we're seeing Radiant Greninja, if we do very, very strong. If we see it do higher placements, especially with Shein Palm, having a high count of Manaphy can really help you in that metagame. Let's also place that new tool card, which pretty much gives all your one retreater free retreat, or if they have 30 HP or less, it gives them free retreat. So in theory, Roaring Moon can have instantly free retreat as soon as it gets its tool card attached to him. Just play that the new punching sort of TM, which does 280 damage. You could attach this to, say, the Charizard or even Cramorant, and you could attack for free. So that's very, very powerful. And the rest of it is very, very good. I like having the Prime Catch. I think it's a very good inclusion for an ace spec, especially for this deck, by having that gusting effect as well. I do think it can become a little bit slower. Lost Box is still trying to find its way. We are seeing the likes of that Ditto, so it does work for the body puffin. You can switch it out for either your Cramorant or even your Radiant Charizard or Roaring Moon. So it's definitely a way to play it. I think Lost Box has already kind of been a little bit more established. It's definitely evolving to its new metagame by saying goodbye to a little bit more of a switching cards and reliable ways to get your big basic EXs or Vs. It's definitely going to slowly get there. And kind of like finally, I want to look at the last one, which is Lugia. Lugia, this is kind of like where we're seeing it kind of go. But it does play Master Ball, which is probably the only S-pick, which is really good for Lugia. Just getting any card you might want to have. You always focus your item cards and just searching out for your Pokemon, and you play a ton of special energies. There's no like recovery for special energies, which is kind of like the limit of Lugia. But having a single prize attacking option of Lugia kind of like feels great again. We've seen Lugia really like fall off the face of the planet, especially since it did well a couple months ago at Japan, but we haven't seen it at all get any placements in Arsenal metagame, especially since Paradox Rift has been released. Lugia's kind of been like, I feel like it's been a lost chicken. It's not really performing as well. It doesn't really know what it wants to do, but this Minccino has really saved this archetype. I think it definitely could be up there to be continually a strong deck. So I'm just going to be excited to see Lugia's kind of return. I don't think it's going to be this force of nature it was like this time last year, but it's the newer way to play Lugia, and people are still learning and adapting for it. So one thing that did happen is we did see the likes of Gardevoir actually get one win. We aren't seeing Gardevoir kind of like return to its glory days of what it once was, because obviously we say goodbye to Shrine Arcana, we say goodbye to Fog Crystal, we say goodbye to so many good cards about things about Gardevoir, so it needs to have other attacking option. Screamtail and Drifloon are definitely the noteworthy sort of ways around it. You can constantly loop them by having the likes of Buddy Poppin to like, no, actually no, you can't, to get your Drifloon, but also Super as well to constantly loop them back in. We are seeing them being very powerful. They can hit the bench, they can hit the active for a huge amount of damage. We can even play that giant cape, what gives them 100 more HP, which can mean you can get these big, absolutely absurd one-hit KOs, potentially get these big prizes as well, wherever they are on the field. We are seeing the Moonlit Hill. We again saw a little bit of a decline in Moonlit Hill be played in Gardevoir. A lot of people were favoring the Sylphie, Artisan, and Collapse because it really helped in the matchup wise. So I feel think the stadiums are a bit similar to how they've been. But we've said goodbye to the Mirage step, which is definitely a way how Curlier really kind of like flooded the board with any of your sort of attacking options and get up to your Gardevoirs. So it is a little bit more different. Not relying on reversal energies, focusing more on basic energies means you can open up the deck just a little bit more. Gardevoir is definitely going to find its feet in this new metagame, but seeing it has got a win on its belt, we could potentially see it slowly evolve. It's got a win before Lostina did, so that's definitely something in the ranks, higher up ranks Gardevoir is going. We did also see Futurebox get a win as well, focusing more on the Iron Leaf. So very different to the list that I showcased a couple days ago on the channel. I think after seeing how powerful Charizard is, Iron Leaves is definitely going to be a much more stronger inclusion going forward. Kind of getting instant KO on Charizard is just really strong. People aren't really opting the likes of the Miraidon or the likes of Iron Valiant as other attacking options. For me, I really like them still. Get these big one-hit KOs potentially, but people are scared entirely of Charizard. So that's why I believe Iron Leaves is in this one. I think Futurebox still, again, has a lot going for it. But we need to find out the list. We need to refine it a lot more. I definitely think the Champions League happening in a few weeks' time will definitely open up to see if Future Box is going to be a reliable archetype once we see the rest of the metagame. But I just want to showcase that it's a very, very different list to how I've been showcasing it beforehand about why this list is actually very good. Plus, it does have a decent Storm matchup by playing that Minior as well. So that's a good inclusion as well. And finally, finishing off, we're looking at the Ancient Box that got second place. We can see here that it plays a ton of Ancient cards as well, kind of like making sure it's fueling up that Roaring Moon to do that huge amount of damage, 70 plus 10 for each of the ancient cards in your discard pile. We do play quite a few ways to get these in the discard pile, the likes of that Adventures, the likes of Earthen Vessel, Ultra Ball, and even Trekking Shoes, as well as Pokestop. But I think it's very, very powerful. I like the likes of Fluttermane, so it can have that sniping effect. Obviously, that Charizard, which hopefully, if there's no Greninja in play, does 180 damage to any of your opponent's active Pokemon, which is really, really strong, especially for a single price attacking option. I think it's fun. It is performing a little bit at a similar level to the regular Lost Box, but as a single prize archetype, this has actually got definitely some legs to it, and I'm really excited to see how the metagame is kind of going to evolve to see if this is going to be a worthy contender. So if we look ahead, can anything actually beat Charizard? We obviously talked about how powerful Charizard really is, especially going into post-rotation. It didn't really lose that much. It gained much, much stronger archetypes and cards to go with it. Can Arctina really continue that path? Now, I do believe it can do. If Charizard is going to continue to be absolutely powerful, it is one of the strongest ways to counter right now, especially by flooding the board with energies with your Arceus V or V-Star, then having Iron Leaf really have that answering counter to Charizard EX. And what is the best way to play any of the Paradox sort of cards? Is it the likes of the Future Box? Is it that Ancient Box as well? Or is it just Roaring Moon? Or having to see some inclusions of like an Iron Hands Roaring Moon in other people's deck? I do think we're in a very, very exciting time for post-rotation. I think Charizard is an incredibly good deck. I think it's still definitely way too early doors to talk about that Charizard is one of the strongest decks, but right now it is in contention to be the BDIF of this format. So, hope you guys have enjoyed this video. If you have, please make sure to like and subscribe and comment down below what deck are you most excited to play and try out. In the next couple of days, I'm going to talk about some other brand new archetypes. So, Charizard and Great Tusk will be my deck profiles this week. Hope you guys enjoyed them. Have a wonderful rest of your day, and I'll see you guys later. Bye for now.